We had meatloaf the other day at my house, and my kids loved it. So maybe we're going to skip a generation,
and be
meatloaf
back.
is coming
It'll
back.
be back. I used to call myself Manhattan Bob, I think, back then, because I went to New York so often.
As people mature in the industry and they get burned out, they realize the impact that they're having. Being the chef at that fraternity and sorority is much greater. And they get to build these amazing relationships, and they get to have a work-life balance, and they get to go home to their families. They get to spend time with their kids. They get to go on vacation. They get to be home at Christmas.
We think it's really important that we take care of people, and we love going above and beyond. And I don't think we could do that if we weren't working chefs out in the field on a constant basis.
It's not just about creating more revenue. It's about more than that. We say that it's food service that matters to people that matter.
We've created a family atmosphere. We've always had that. And when we talk to our clients too, we always ask them to invite us into their family so we can be part of it.
You're listening to Seasoned Leaders, a podcast about leadership, growth, and the power of hospitality. I'm Adam Guy, and in this episode, we're taking you inside what it actually looks like to partner with Upper Crust Food Service, from the moment a client says yes to how we show up every day to deliver on our promises.
We're really excited today to pull back the curtain on what happens after you sign a contract with Upper Crust Food Service. And so we have with us Bob Tye, who's our VP of Operations. Bob, how long have you been with Upper Crust?
13 years. I think 13 of the 15 years we've been here. And it's been a nice long ride. Some ups, some downs, but we're doing really well, I think.
Yeah, the best 13 years of your life.
Absolutely. I mean, without a doubt, for sure. And I've got a lot of years on me, so that's saying a lot.
So Bob, you handle all of our operations, which means that's a pretty big job. There's over 2,000 culinary professionals that are all ultimately flowing up to your direction. That's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of people, but we have a lot of good layers there in between that help manage this group of people. I'd like to say I know every one of that group of people. I used to when we were a little bit smaller, but in this day and age, it's not possible. But that's some of the stuff I miss, I guess, when we were in our infancy.
So you've done a great job of sort of pushing a culture down to your management, right? So as we all know, it'd be impossible for you to have that intimate relationship with every single employee, but you have a great close relationship with your management team. And those are people that have been around for a long time, and that makes a big difference.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of good, loyal people, and especially in our management group. I mean, you gave me a lot of autonomy when I came to the company, and I have in turn pushed that down to them, and I think it's been what's spurred the growth of our company on.
That entrepreneurial spirit.
That's kind of it is. And we have a lot of people that work for us in the management business that used to own their own businesses as well. So it's always nice having those people who understand different things about running a business, for sure.
And speaking of running a business in the past, let's just back up to your past, because you have done more than just Upper Crust Food Service. And so you've been in the food service business basically your entire life, hospitality.
I think you get into the food service business if you're not very smart, right? We've always talked about that. And somehow I come out of college with 2 psychology degrees. They'll tell you all you need to know about those. They're not worth much. So you end up in the food service business. I had restaurants, I had bars originally. And then because I made every mistake in those businesses, I became a very good consultant. So
that's perfect. The perfect path to consulting.
Absolutely.
And I don't mean to date you on the podcast here, Bob, but one of my favorite stories is from one of your bars. So you had one of the most popular college bars in town. And I always love the story about how you used to have to go get music. Can you tell that story?
Yeah, I mean, this is a dating story, so you were lying about giving away my age. But I was very fortunate at the time. I had a college roommate who moved to New York City in Manhattan and was in advertising. And I would fly out there every 3 months to find new music because it didn't transfer so openly across all the variable different venues and media venues that we have now. And I would bring music back to the club, and basically the radio stations would come in to find out what they needed to play next. It wasn't the other way around. So we were very lucky in those days, and I had some really good opportunities. I used to call myself Manhattan Bob, I think, back then, because I went to New York so often.
It's just such a great story and how businesses evolve. And how, today, obviously, there isn't a nightclub in the country that would need to travel somewhere to find new music.
Absolutely not.
Right. It's just in their device, right in their hand. And so I just think that's a great way to show the way that you have been a trailblazer in each industry that you've been in, and also how you've been willing to adapt and change. Because as Upper Crust has grown in these 13 years, there has been a lot of growth and there's been a lot of change. And things that worked for us in years 1 through 5, don't work as well as you scale and grow your business. And you have to always be redefining and at the same time staying on the cutting edge. And I think, Bob, you've really helped us to be a company that's kind of out ahead of the pack a lot of the time.
I think we always talked about we wanted always to be innovative, right? Even when we first started, even when we weren't the biggest company on the block, we were wanting to be the most innovative, and that's how we thought we would get ahead. And we worked and built our business template to reflect that. I always remember the first time you interviewed me for the job, and it was just, I think I was even just going to consult, and we didn't even know what I was really going to do. That you looked at me and you go, well, you look a little disappointed. And I go, yeah, I'm mad. I never thought of this industry while I was in the business of doing what I was doing and started it myself. But I think we've worked really well together to get where we've gotten. So we're real happy about that.
I want to start, though, by what are some of the reasons that we see potential partners coming to Upper Crust? What are some of the problems that your operations team feels like you are solving for customers out there in the field?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, we can't forget, no matter how big we get, that we're a service business and we're there to service the customers. And sometimes as you get bigger and get comfortable in your positions, you have to understand that you really want to take care of the client. And I think that gets lost sometimes. When we have that problem, we like to react quickly to that. I think we find ourselves taking over spots where people are having that problem if it's another company. But we also have an issue where, fraternities and sororities don't want to be in the industry of running kitchens, right? We used to always talk about that. Hey, do you want to run a kitchen? Because if you do, here's the 5, 6, 7 things. It's the old consultant trick that you have to do. If you do these 5, you don't need us. But if you want us to do it, we can do it expediently and do it well. So, generally the most important person and the hardest thing to do is staffing. And we've talked about that at length on several occasions, that we get that. We try and get that right in the beginning, but we don't always. And if we do, we're fast to make that adjustment because it's really important to our client.
Yeah, I think staffing is one of the main pain points that the potential customers feel, whether they're independent, running their own kitchen, or even if they're with a competitor, right?
Yep.
And they have a staffing situation that isn't working out for them. And I think that you and I have heard this line so many times, but I think it's worth repeating. When we go in to talk to a new client, they say, we love our chef, but we hate our food.
Yeah, I think that's a big deal. And it's a weird dichotomy, but it happens all the time. And sometimes you can retrain the chef and give him the support that he needs that other companies were not giving them in the field. That works for us about 75% of the time. But sometimes you just have to convince your client that it's time for them to move on, even though they're very happy with the personality. And by the way, we like chefs that have good personalities. I mean, that's important to us because we're living within a house and with the confines of their establishment. And obviously they're going to see the same people on a daily. So it's really important.
Our business is very unique because our chefs are on the front line. We don't really have, in most cases, a front of house staff. In some accounts we do, but in most cases, that chef is interacting directly with the clients. And so that staffing piece is really important. Food quality is another one that I hear a lot of, that people come to us, right, when they're looking to make a change and just say, man, there isn't any consistency. The food quality is not where it is. Kind of elaborate on that. What do you hear from customers when you're going into a new opportunity?
I think the biggest thing that happens to us when we meet customers is they're getting what we used to refer in the industry as can to pan, right? That you just open up a can, pour it in a pan, put it out. We like to do things a little bit different and find the freshest ingredients and the freshest quality of food we possibly can out there and serve it and prepare it. And I think that's really important. And we design our menus accordingly to fit that bill. That doesn't mean, I think we laugh about this sometimes, that you get these oddball requests. They used to have dino nuggets in high school and they'd like to have a dino nugget night, right? So, I mean, we surely help fulfill that, but we're trying to do better things than that 90% of the time.
Right. As much scratch made as we can
Absolutely.
and chef inspired. One thing that I hear a lot from my side talking with corporation boards is this shift from liability. And so that's, one reason if you're going to be independent and you're looking to potentially move to a food service management company, it's this shift of the liability when it comes to workers' comp, when it comes to insurance, those things that you don't think about until they're a problem. is a pretty big deal for a lot of our chapters. I think that's another pain point that oftentimes brings people to Upper Crust.
Yeah, I think they're almost having to set themselves up as a corporation sometimes, right? To do payrolls, to do different things. That with us, they get a complete turnkey operation where they're writing one check to us and they don't have to worry about 5 different other venues, whether they're paying their taxes, whether they're taking care of payroll and payroll taxes and paying vendors and doing all the extra things that they don't have to do. So we take a lot off their plate and a lot of headaches as well, too, right? I mean, the big joke is if the food is good and the Wi-Fi works, everybody's happy in the fraternity, but that's always been the big joke. So It's our job to make sure the food works and maybe we'll get in the Wi-Fi business.
I was going to say that might be a new vertical for us. We need to figure out how to get that fast Wi-Fi at the houses. So at this point, we know the pain points that ultimately bring somebody to a conversation with Upper Crust. And then assuming that those conversations go well and we can provide solutions to the problems that our partners or potential partners are facing, it then moves into a contract being signed. And that's what we're going to spend the most of our time today talking about is what happens after the ink dries on that contract. And so kind of take us through what is the first step that operations takes when you get a new client, a new contract comes to you with a new spec sheet. What is the first thing that your team does?
I think one of the good things that's happened pre all that, Adam, is that we've had some conversations with the sales team about the numbers that they're bringing on, of the size of the kitchen. So again, it's really important for us to go in, inspect the kitchen, make sure that they have the equipment that we need to produce the quality of food we need to do, and to look at something so simple as their small wares and what they have there and what we may need to operate correctly and give the kind of service that we like to give. So I think that's the premier thing that we're looking for in the very beginning on the handoff, but then we're also looking for the right person in the right place at the right time, right? We want to create a staff and environment that can produce the kind of quality that we want to do, and at the same time represent our company well on the front of the house. So those things are tough things to do, but we've done it for a lot of years and we've been very successful at it. So it's really important.
No, that's exactly right. And I think that the staffing to me is an early piece, right? That becomes a really important part for our operations team. And so I'd love for you to talk me through sort of what does that process look like? What are you looking for in a head chef? That person that's going to be sort of in charge of that account, from food quality to relationship, all that kind of stuff. What are you looking for there?
Yeah, we're looking for somebody that has restaurant experience generally, right, Adam? And one of the great things about our job is we offer better hours than what a restaurant can open. No weekends generally and not that much business. But we also want them to have had a personality within their kitchen, right? And maybe worked the front of the house a little bit or worked in banquet centers where they had to come out and talk to people after they prepared food. The gamut runs the range, but generally the gentlemen or the gentlewomen are a little bit older, have had experience in those businesses and are willing to take a step back here and run their own business in their own sense of the word. We love to give the kind of autonomy we talked at the beginning of our show here, and we'll just figure out how we go forward with it, right? And it's really important. And then they're also important to us because they're going to create whatever extra staff they need to go forward, and they have to work with those people as well. So
no, absolutely. I think that we can't underestimate what a great job this is in the culinary industry. You hit on it a little bit, but the fact that you can create a different menu every day, right? You're not stuck creating the same 15 menu items that are on your restaurant menu,
correct,
right? Over and over
or
and
your
over
catering
again.
menu.
Or your catering menu. The fact that you have few late nights, few weekend hours. I mean, this really is a dream job. And I have a lot of people that ask me, hey, why don't you just recruit from the culinary schools? It sounds like such a great gig. And I think the thing that's interesting about the culinary schools, and we do have connections with culinary schools, and we do have some people that work for us that come straight out of culinary school and come work for our company. But the vast majority of them are looking to get that experience, that broad experience. And part of being a chef is kind of experiencing that chef culture, right? Everybody wants to be the next top chef. Everybody wants to be the next celebrity chef, right? And so our business isn't sexy. Our business is really important. But we are not going to attract somebody that say, man, if I could be the chef at that elementary school, that would really, I would really make my mark. But I think what's interesting is as people mature, right, in the industry and they get burned out and they have the late nights, they have the weekends, they realize the impact that they're having. Being the chef at that fraternity and sorority house or being the chef at that elementary school is actually much greater. And they get to build these amazing relationships, and they get to have a work-life balance, and they get to go home to their families. They get to spend time with their kids. They get to go on vacation. They get to be home at Christmas, right? How many buffets have we all done in the hospitality industry on Easter morning?
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's something that's really great, and we really try to hit on that, right, when it comes to our staffing.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the culinary students, even though they've done a great job and learned, we might get some of them in their infancy. We can teach them business acumen, which is really good, which maybe they didn't get as much of in the culinary institutes. But in the end, they understand that they're producing, and it's always nice to have them and have them do mentorships for us, which we have too. So we like to use all of that group, but we have a tendency to have people that are moving out of the restaurant business into our business.
The biggest mistake we can make, I think, is to think that the head chef, that unit manager, right, is all that we need to support an account. And I think that there's a lot of businesses that have been built in the hospitality world where they're very reliant upon the chef, right, that's in the front of the house. And even though a customer may say, well, we love our chef, they don't realize whether or not there's support behind that chef until something goes wrong. And so I'd love for you to chat a little bit about the emphasis that your operations team takes on the density of our management. So when you're talking about campus managers, regional managers, regional directors, all the way up to your field ops guys, we have an infrastructure that's different than anybody else in our industry. So can you speak to kind of the support levels that have been created at Upper Crust?
Yeah, I think we have these positions and these layers to have cause and effect. And as you know this about myself, I mean, we are not clipboard managers. We never have been. We are working in the field constantly, and we're always there to help. In fact, I joke that depending on what county I'm in, I'm the best dishwasher in that county.
And this is true. I have seen you do some dishes before, and I will tell you this, what an impact it makes when the vice president of operations, the top dog on your operations team, walks into a kitchen, sees a pile of dishes, and attacks all of those dishes for the staff. That is the kind of culture that we're trying to create, that no job is too small for anybody in our organization. And I think it makes a big impact in the way that our employees feel about working for us.
Yeah, I think the stories we tell in the restaurant business, and as an owner of a restaurant at any given time, Adam, that even though I'm a trained culinary chef and I feel I'm as good as chef as anybody, right? We all do. We think we're artists, as I like to say, as opposed to cooks. But if the dishwasher walks out and you make the grill guy go wash dishes, he's probably going to leave too. Now you got a grill and a dishwasher. If you'll just go and wash the dishes, everybody stays in place and you don't have to worry about the breakdown of what's going on, right? Yeah. And we feel the same way in our industry. And I think, as we've talked about, as we pass down this autonomy, my field ops guys feel this way. Regional managers feel this way. Our regional directors feel this way. Our campus managers feel this way. And that's the kind of support we give the house. So if for some reason the chef should be sick that day or have a family emergency or something shows up, we go forward with something different. And usually one of those groups fill in. And they're constantly working with special events, with all these people. We find we like facing people all the time and taking care of that type of business. So it's really important for us to interact with our client as much as we can on a daily.
And as important as the relationships are and the staffing is, right, and we've hit on that, the food is just as important, right? And I always tell people that having great food should be kind of the basis of being a food service management company, right? Like that should be one common denominator. We found that isn't necessarily always the case, but it really should be. Talk to me a little bit about contracts been signed. How do we figure out within a new account what kind of menus are going to be appropriate for them? Because not every house is the same.
I think it's really important, and we've talked about this and we've learned this over the years, how important the flavor profile of the house is and how it can change so drastically within, a month or a year or semester, right, because of the patrons that are in the house. So I think it's really important for us to understand that we change the flavor profiles, and we've developed an app for that. We've developed meetings for that with students. We do a lot of that just to make sure that we get this flavor profile thing right. And we've seen it change from house to house on different campuses that have a lot of out-of-state students. Some can be from the South, and another house can have a lot of Northerners right in it. And your menu is going to be completely different on what their satisfaction and what their flavor profiles are. So again, other than finding the right personnel to do that, right? I'm half Greek by ethnic tradition. If you want Greek food, I might be your best go-to guy, but that doesn't mean the people I'm cooking for want Greek food, and we have to be adaptable to the kinds of things that they might prefer. And that's one of the things in our training protocol that we make sure that our chefs in-house know. It's okay to try stuff, but it's also very important, like in most relationships, to listen.
Yeah, no question. I think that the biggest takeaway is that, we've learned as a business that every account is unique and every account is important, and they're important enough to have their own menu, right?
Correct.
They're important
Absolutely.
enough for us at the chef level to be listening to the client, what they like, what they dislike, what's worked well, what hasn't worked as well. And to be always evolving our menus on a weekly basis so that, we're changing things seasonally. We're changing things as the members change. And the cool part about food service is as soon as you think you figure it out, something's going to change.
Absolutely.
Right?
I mean, it's much like what we see out in the restaurant world, right? We have to keep up with the trends as well. I mean, we're not, and again, let's date myself. As much as I like meatloaf, we're not serving a whole lot of meatloaf these days in our places. So
yeah, actually, believe it or not, we had meatloaf the other day at my house, and my kids loved it. So maybe we're going to skip a generation,
and meatloaf
is coming back.
It'll be back.
So just when you think meatloaf is out, Bob, 10 years from now, we'll be serving my kids meatloaf when they're in college. Talk to me about the relationship that you have with client success. So this is another department that we have within the organization, and it's unique to Upper Crust in our industries because we're the only company with a dedicated client success division. And that also has a big impact after the contract is signed because they become this liaison between operations and the customer. And the reason that we created the department is because we realize you build that relationship with your chef, and sometimes you don't want to hurt their feelings, right? And maybe there's something you'd like to see improved, something you'd like to see changed. A lot of our, especially at the collegiate level, a lot of our college students are not going to go to their chef and say, hey, chef, I'd really like to see this thing on the menu instead of that, or I'd really like to see this. And so having a sort of an unbiased third party that's advocating, right? We call our employees customer advocates, someone that's advocating for the customer and their needs. That's really been kind of an interesting thing to weave in with operations and very unique for Upper Crust. So how does that process play out?
I think, we were talking about how we always wanted to be innovative compared to other companies and be ahead of the pack, whether it was originally with our app that we were getting feedback and following things. Eventually, it came to this as we got bigger that we needed other people to field information and give us a heads up if there were issues. Again, sometimes I don't want to hurt the chef's feelings, or I don't even want to hurt the campus manager's feelings. So now I have another option to go to. I think we've used the term easy, but I can call client success, and then they can filter the information back down, or they can promote a sit down with the campus manager or the regional manager, regional directors, and client success, and discuss how we solve whatever problems they are. And again, sometimes it's a chef problem, a personnel problem, sometimes it's a food quality problem, but we want to be on it, and we want to be on it fast, and we want to take care of it. And again, Adam, I think we've prided ourselves over at least my 13 years, and I'm even sure before I got here, of taking care of problems fast. It's the most important thing we do, and they help us do that, and that's really important.
I think it also allows the chef to do what they do best, which is cook and do what they're really trained to do, and then allow somebody else to handle part of that relationship piece, which is nice. So let's dive even deeper now. Let's dive into the day-to-day operations. So we're putting out a variety of different meals, right? Depending on which partner we're working with, from breakfast, whether it's continental breakfast, hot breakfast, we're doing lunch, we're doing dinner, we have snack plans, we have special events. All these things kind of roll into this, but there's some unique features that happen during our process. One of them is this idea behind late plates. And this is especially prevalent in our Greek division,
Sure.
but we also see it in our collegiate vertical as well. This idea that if you miss a meal, right, if you're going to, I always tell the story that it's going to happen in a fraternity house when, partway through the semester, the cute girl in your science class invites you to study, and you're going to do that instead of go home for dinner, but you're still going to be hungry, right? So kind of How does your operations team manage those types of requests?
Yeah, I mean, again, we developed this app many, many years ago, Adam, and I think it's really important that you can sign up for late plates within a small spectrum of time. We give you a lot of opportunity so we can make those and fill that requirement so that when you do come back from sporting events or whatever happens, dates, there's your food there waiting for you with your name on it. And it's all come through the app, and we've made it very convenient for someone to say, hey, I'll be late today and we're going to do this. And there's a tradition of how we do that and how we set that up. And I think it's really important. It's not, again, to date myself, everybody's not eating together like we did in the old days when I was in my fraternity, right? I mean, you came down at the same time and you left at the same time, and that was simple. That's not in today's operation. It is everybody's coming down at different times of the day and different times of the dinner hour or lunch hour. And so we have to adapt to those things. And we've done a really good job with that with late plates. And again, there's a great app that we put out that people can sign up on it. So that's worked out really well for us.
Yeah, and you mentioned the app, and I think that having the technology is something that, as the leader of our operations, you've really had to embrace technology, and we give you a hard time about it, Bob.
Absolutely, yeah.
That maybe
I won't give up my flip phone yet.
Exactly. You have the flip phone, and we're like, man, how is he going to be able to do the app? But you've really adapted to it well, because
so let's joke. I don't have, in all seriousness, everybody, I don't have a flip phone anymore. I've matriculated up, but I do have
still
Android. I'm still an Android guy. Yeah.
I don't know if I believe that. I'm not sure if I believe that or not. We're going to have to see the phone before the end of the podcast. But within this app, one of the big things that we control is dietary preferences. And when you talk about things evolving, dietary preferences have maybe been the biggest change that we've seen in food service management over the last 10 years. That it used to be you really had to have a doctor's note, or you had to have, something very specific if you were going to get anything different from the meal. And frankly, it was kind of frowned upon, right? To come down and ask for anything different than what was going to be offered to you on the buffet. That is not the case anymore, right? Everybody has very unique tastes. Everybody has been very well cultured. They have been to a lot of restaurants, right? Seen a lot more maybe than in years past. And so these dietary both needs, right, from a health perspective, and also just preferences as well, we've seen become really prevalent. So talk to me a little bit how your team navigates those dietary requirements.
I think we fall into the same venue again to look at, we had to look at what restaurants were doing, right? And I think it was really important that we did. And I think everybody's been out where the waiter or waitress, the first thing they say is, do you have any dietary restrictions, right? So we've developed that as part of our app and as part of our culture with our chefs, right? Where sometimes even that personal contact, and it helps create a personal contact where our chef is making something specific for somebody with some extreme dietary needs, right? But we've always set up a different area for dietary needs, and we take care of people that have dietary restrictions, and we don't want to have people feel left out. And we've seen these things evolve from, meatless burgers to all those things, and we have to deliver those kinds of options too in our food service business. So it's really important.
I think the important part is that everyone that comes to eat with us feels seen and feels cared for.
Absolutely.
And I think that making sure that we're taking care of anyone with a dietary requirement is really important. We want them to feel just like everybody else in that account, right? That they're not.
Adam, you know this. I mean, we serve 500 people in some accounts and 45 people in some accounts. So we have to still do the same things on a smaller scale, obviously, but we still want everybody to feel that they have options.
So I fear a little bit as we go through this operations, right? We talk about all these things that we do, all these systems we have in place, all these protocols and all these great things that your team has developed. And I want to be honest about the fact that this is food service, right? This is not perfect. We have a lot of employees, and things are not going to be perfect at every single meal. And that's one of the reasons why the relationship piece is so important, because if a partner knows that you care, right, they can forgive the fact that there was a equipment that malfunctioned and the lasagna got burned one night, right? And so although we try to be as close to perfect as we can for our clients, we try to understand their expectations, meet those, and then exceed them. The reality is we're not perfect. And sometimes things happen that are outside of your control. And so I'd love to know, what are some tools that we have? Like, let's say that something happens out of our control and a chef has to call in sick, or somebody in a chef's family has passed away and they have to go attend to a funeral for 3 or 4 days. What are the things that we've got in place that kind of help to react to that?
I think originally, before our density became so big, we had traveling chefs that we said we like to do stuff in a 24-hour period, and it was really important for us to do that. I think now with our density, we have these layers that we talked about earlier where a campus manager can fill in, a field manager can fill in, a regional manager. Again, we are all working chefs. We are not clipboard chefs, as I like to say. So I think that we've put things in place that we can take care of any of these things that occur. And it's been really, really important to, we still have the 24-hour rule, but we think we get there sooner and faster than we normally do. So we think the density has helped us do that. And we have set up, certain regions that basically manage themselves a little bit with a little bit of oversight. And I think that's really important as we've broken things down to be able to take care of these problems in space and in a quick time.
And what I hear you saying is as our company has scaled and grown, we've actually, in my opinion, I'd love to get your feedback. I think we're actually better at responding at the local level as we've grown the business. And I think some people might look at a business and say on the outside, oh, well, if they're getting bigger, there's no way that they could care or be as responsive at the unit level in my local community. But the reality is we really have built this business the opposite way. We built it from the local up, meaning that we have the chef in the house, we have the support team, we have the campus manager. And as we've grown and created that density, that has been now one of the benefits of our business, right? The fact that when you need somebody, we don't have to put them on a plane and have them show up 2 days later. They will be in your kitchen in most cases for that next meal, right? If you need to talk to somebody, we have somebody available that's right there.
Not only do we have people right there, we have traveling chefs that are close by, right? We're not flying them cross country like we used to have to do sometimes because our density wasn't so big. But again, we don't make decisions. We're sitting here in Columbia, Missouri, as we like to say, we don't make decisions in our underground bunker here.
Right.
We make them out in the field, and we make them, and we have grown our company from an operationally based or local based company, and that's how we've done it. And I think it's been really good in our ability to triage any of these problems that we have out in the field. I think it's been really, really important for us.
Thank you. Yeah, that really gives us a great glimpse, I think, into the day-to-day operations from the time we sign the contract, kind of what happens then through setting up the contract all the way into the day-to-day. I want to shift now to talking about some of these amazing stories that come from our staff, our employees that are in the field, that are working hard every day. We call them these "we show up" moments, right? And when we came up with that slogan, it felt so right because we felt like our team is showing up so often for our clients, right? That they're going above and beyond, that they're doing that little extra thing to make sure that our clients are taken care of and feel valued. And so I'd love to kind of go through some of your favorites. I will start with one of mine just to kind of get us kicked off. We had a sorority client that had a big recruitment. It was going to be super busy over multiple days. If anybody has ever watched, Bama Rush, or any of these documentaries, you'll get an idea of how crazy this is. Thousands and thousands of women coming through the houses to decide what house they're going to be in. And we had a house that forgot to tell us that they were going to need bottled water for the recruitment.
I think they actually told us they were going to get the water themselves and failed to do so.
Okay.
Not to correct, but I think that's what happened.
So something happened where they didn't have the water, right? And so this house director came to our regional manager in panic and said, if we don't have these waters, that this is going to be really detrimental to our recruitment. And so we called our purveyors and we needed like 10,000 bottles of water.
Correct.
For this whole week's worth of water. They didn't have 10,000 bottles of water in stock. So our team actually went and rented a box truck and drove to every Costco, Sam's Club, Walmart within a 100-mile radius of Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
We were mixing matching bottles of water.
Of course.
For sure it wasn't all one.
They weren't all the same brand, but we still showed up, right? And we came back, we pulled up the back door of that, and to see the look on that house director's face as our staff was carrying these cases of water in, going above and beyond, like those are the stories that really make me proud. And so what are some other stories that come to your mind like that?
Yeah, I think there's been some opportunities. I think one of them was in the government shut down for a while and everybody was worried about the SNAP programs. And two, we didn't realize that there would be people in some of our operations that relied on this for weekends and different stuff. and we were approached to maybe see if we could help out. And we made sure we had a bunch of box lunches set up all through the weekend. And although it didn't materialize for much longer than a week, everybody was taken care of. And it was really important for us to be able to get that done and to come to the realization that there are a lot of needs that sometimes we don't see on the surface that are sitting underneath. And so we took care of that one. That was really, really important to us to be able to do that and help out. And that was generated, again, by a client success thing that we were talking about earlier, that operationally we probably wouldn't have known about that, and it came through from a national client of ours. So I think those things are really important. There's been a lot of different things, Adam, that we talked about Bama Rush, but Bama football games are equally a deal where we've been told there's going to be 500 people to show up for the Bama football game, and they wanted a Bama brunch, and it's turned out to be 1,500, right? So We're scurrying all over the campus. Now, we're not saying that everybody got pulled pork that day, but everybody got something to eat and everyone got to eat, and everybody got fed. So we think it's really important that we take care of people, and we love going above and beyond. And I don't think we could do that if we weren't working chefs out in the field on a constant basis. Everybody's available to roll up their sleeves, and there's never been a need not to. And we look, it's almost therapeutic. I talk about it because I like it so much. I mean, if my phone's not ringing, and I can just bury my head and do some chefy work, I'm sometimes happier than when I'm answering phone calls and taking care of business. I don't know if maybe that's a good reason to get rid of me. I don't know. But
well, I don't think we want to do that quite yet. Weather is another one that we see. And I think that it's an important one because I tell our team all the time, when inclement weather comes, that's an opportunity for us to either be prepared and shine, or it's an opportunity for a potential disaster, right? So when we think about some of these snowstorms in the South, maybe there's some ice storms. They always freak out more in the South, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember vividly, we were at, I think it was Georgia Tech campus. I think you were with me, Bob. We were down there and there was a threat of an ice storm, and our food purveyor said that they had canceled all trucks. Now, this is before even a drop of precipitation came from the sky. Right. And we're walking around the campus, and there is no ice. There's a lot of salt all over the place, right? That they had dropped.
Looks like snow.
Looks like it had snowed, but it hadn't snowed. The food purveyors did not deliver food for like 2 or 3 days, and there never ended up being enough ice to even have it be a problem. But just the threat of severe weather shut people down in the South. When we talk about up north, we just got done with a snowstorm that had, like 25 inches of snow in some areas. And so for that, when we talk about showing up, sometimes that means you're prepared. We've had chefs that have gotten in hotels right on walking distance to campus, right? So that they can be on campus and be able to walk to the account. We're ordering groceries ahead of time before the storm so that we can make sure that we're prepared. We're putting, casseroles and lasagnas and, things like that can be heated up in the kitchens. And we're communicating through our app. Those are moments that we can really show up for our customers. And I think it's such a great opportunity for us to shine.
Yeah, I think that we have so many variables there, right? So because we have a procurement part of our company that understands what's going to happen in advance because they're getting notices from our vendors and saying, hey, we may not deliver on this day, we're able to prompt our people to go ahead and order and to prepare food. I mean, preparation is 9/10 of our business anyway, but sometimes you have to prepare for 2 or 3 days where the chef may not be able to get in there with little instructions to the house director on how to heat up food, right? I mean, there are certain things we do. And then again, we generally have enough people because of our density that there is always a group of people who either stay in hotels close by or people who are warriors through these things and enjoy the challenge and can go around from house to house and help prepare food so that the people get fed. I mean, the one thing we always have to remember that if we don't feed them, they're not getting deliveries from a pizza place or anywhere else either, right? There's no food to be had because everybody else is closed down as well. So we're almost in that position that it's mandatory that we take care of these things. Now, obviously, we don't want to put our staffs in jeopardy, but the preparation before allows us not to do that and still feed our customers and take care of them.
No question. All right, let's kind of wrap things up today by talking about a little bit about the scale that Upper Crust has developed. And as we've scaled this business from an operational standpoint, how do we continue to grow? And we talk about wanting to grow not because we're interested in being the biggest. We're interested in serving as many customers and being hospitable to as many people as we can, right? We think that we have a good model, and we'd love to have that model impact positively more communities, more people, more partners. And we want to be able to give more and more opportunities to our staff, right, to be able to grow within our company. So it's important when we talk about scaling, it's not just about creating more revenue, right? It's about more than that. We say that it's food service that matters to people that matter, right? And so to me, as we grow, I think it's really important that we realize that people matter more than the processes. And these relationships that we're building are more important than all of these processes that we're talking about, but that these systems are what can help us hold this all together, right? In the end. I mean, we have to have the systems, we have to have the scale, but we can't forget about the people. And so as I task you with running operations, how do you plan on continuing to make sure that our people are at the center of this as we continue to grow?
I think the most important thing we do, Adam, and you've talked about all this growth and all the different things. I mean, we still and I believe this because you and I have been doing this for 13 years. I mean, our focus has always been to be the best, right? Not the biggest, but to be the best. And from being the best, we've become the biggest. And I think that's been the emphasis. What we've also had to do is be ready for adaptation, right? We've thought, and God knows I helped build this model, so I'm very proud of it, right? The business model that we use, that we've had to have adaptations to it throughout as growth spurts have started, and we've had to change some things. So we talked about my lack of technology, but you just have to be able to adapt. You have to be willing to move on, and you have to be able to change the way you look at things sometimes. And that's always difficult for people, especially because they're used to doing things one way and one way only. But we've given them a lot of support. I think maybe sometimes too much but sometimes probably a little too little. But we try to let people, we've regionalized our company very nicely in 6-7 regions now, to be able to adapt to certain areas a little bit differently and let things run a little bit differently in the South than they do in the North and the Midwest, and let those decision makers make those decisions in those regions without, as we talked about in our underground bunker in Columbia, Missouri. I mean, we help make those decisions. I'm not saying we don't, but we give them a lot of autonomy and a lot of freedom. And I think that's how we've stayed the best. And I think from being the best, we've become the biggest.
Absolutely. So we've talked today, we've pulled back the curtain, and we've talked about what it looks like after you sign the contract and everything that happens operationally within the company. Let's fast forward now to 6 months after somebody has signed with us, and your team has been putting in place all these things. And maybe it hasn't been perfect, but you've done the very best that you can do operationally in those 6 months, right? What do you want partners to feel about Upper Crust? What do you want them to say about Upper Crust after working with us for 6 months? How do you want them to feel?
Yeah, I think the most important thing that we can do is for them to be able to communicate and feel comfortable communicating, right? And I want them to feel that even the smallest thing, if they feel like it's not right, we want to fix it before it becomes something bigger, right? We talk about cancers sometimes. We don't want the cancer to get any bigger in our system. We want to treat it right away. Mm-hmm. Now, we obviously want to take care of bigger problems than that as well, too. But we like to take care of the small problems early on before they become bigger problems. And I think communication and we've given them a lot of venues on how to communicate with us on the ground individually, with their staff, with their managers, with campus managers, with regional managers. But then we've obviously given them an opportunity through our app, through some surveys. And then obviously client success has played a part in that too. And even some of our salespeople stay in touch with their clients, right? And are an ear for them too. And so we're trying to get a lot of information so we can process this information and take care of our clients on the ground. So I think that's really, really important for our clients. The more they participate with us, the better our service is and the better it can be as we go forward. So I think that's been really important for us as a company.
Well, it sounds like you want them to feel like they're part of this Upper Crust family and that they're cared for and that they're seen. And I just really appreciate that from a leader in operations. And when I think about the team that's out there working every day from my seat as the CEO, I realize that they are doing the hard work. Right? Our operations team is waking up every morning early to get breakfast out. staying late to make sure the dishes are done right, making sure that food is seasoned just right, going above and beyond. And so thank you from all of us at Upper Crust for all the work that you do and the operations team. And we hope that we're building a culture where your team feels valued by us as an organization and feels like this is a place that they can build a career, not just have a job, but build a career and have a work family and have something that they feel like they can continue to build.
Yeah, we've created a family atmosphere. We've always had that. And when we talk to our clients too, we always ask them to invite us into their family too, so we can be part of it, right? We can stay in the back in the kitchen if that's what they want us to do and just serve them food. But if we can become part of their group and their organization, we find ourselves to be extremely successful in those situations. And we really like doing that and we enjoy it. And they become part of our family as we become part of theirs as well. So it's been really important in our growth and what I believe is, we give the best service in the industry. So,
well, Bob, thank you for joining us today. Your homework is to go turn that flip phone in and get a new phone before the next time.
I give them my phone before I could walk in here. Otherwise, I could show them that I don't actually have a flip phone. I would like to have my flip phone back.
You should.
Absolutely.
You should. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Bob.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it.
Today, you heard what it takes to bring hospitality to life: the people, the systems, and the commitment behind every partnership. In the next episode of Seasoned Leaders, we'll take you behind the scenes of our rebrand, why we did it, what it represents, and how we're shaping the future of Upper Crust. Until next time, thanks for listening and stay seasoned.